Part 1. At exactly 2:17 a.m., while most of America slept, a single unverified video appeared online and quietly began tearing the country apart. The clip was only 43 seconds long. No intro, no watermark, no voiceover, just raw footage filmed from inside a moving car, shaking slightly, the glow of Washington, D.C. streetlights streaking across the windshield. Then the camera tilted left, focusing on a man sitting in the back seat. His face was half in shadow, but the profile was unmistakable. A former president. Alive, calm, speaking in a low, deliberate voice. "This offer expires at dawn," he said. "If you refuse, everything goes public." The video cut to black. Within 6 minutes, it was reposted on 3 fringe forums. Within 12 minutes, it reached encrypted messaging groups used by political operatives. By sunrise, it was trending under a single, dangerous question. What offer? By 9 a.m., cable news anchors were calling it fake. By noon, former aides were refusing to comment. And by evening, the White House had quietly convened an emergency meeting that never appeared on the official schedule. Inside a secured room beneath the West Wing, screens replayed the footage again and again. Audio engineers confirmed the voice was real. Video analysts confirmed the lighting, reflections, and compression artifacts matched a genuine recording environment. Intelligence officers exchanged looks they didn't want captured by cameras. Someone had recorded that conversation. Someone had waited. And someone had chosen the worst possible moment to release it. Across town, in a cramped apartment overlooking the Potomac, investigative journalist Ethan Cole watched the same clip on his laptop, heart pounding. He had spent 15 years chasing political lies, but this felt different. This felt surgical, intentional, like the opening move of a long-planned operation. Ethan rewound the video, frame by frame. The angle of the car window. The reflection in the glass. The rhythm of the man's speech. There was no doubt in his mind. This wasn't a deepfake. This wasn't satire. And this wasn't meant to be explained quickly. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You're watching the wrong question." Ethan froze. He typed back slowly. "Then tell me the right one." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then the reply arrived. "Unknown number. Who benefits from the silence?" At that exact moment, a separate video surfaced. This one was longer. 3 minutes. Shot from a different angle. Different location. The same man, same night, same voice. But now the context was clearer. The camera was hidden. Planted. The former president leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "They think loyalty still matters," he said with a faint smile. "It doesn't. Power does. And I'm offering them a way out." The clip ended with a date and a time stamped in the corner. 2 days from now. America split instantly. Supporters claimed it proved strength and strategy. Critics claimed it exposed corruption. Legal analysts argued on live television about whether an offer could be considered criminal without proof of acceptance. Meanwhile, social media platforms scrambled, flagging, unflagging, and reflagging the videos as their internal teams argued behind closed doors. But behind the noise, something else was happening. Files were being deleted. Phones were being wiped. Flights were being booked under fake names. Inside a quiet office in St. Paul, Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz stared at the screen, jaw tight. He had not spoken publicly about the video. He had not tweeted. He had not even acknowledged it existed. But the timestamp at the bottom of the footage matched a night he remembered very well. A night that was never supposed to resurface. His chief of staff broke the silence. "Sir, if they release the rest." Walz raised a hand. "They won't." "How can you be sure?" "Because if they do," Walz said slowly, "they burn themselves too." In New York, a former federal prosecutor watched the same clip and quietly reopened a case he had been told, explicitly, to forget. In Silicon Valley, a tech executive recognized the metadata trail and felt a cold realization settle in. In Langley, analysts began connecting dots they were never authorized to connect. This wasn't a leak. It was a countdown. Ethan's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Part 1 was proof of life. Part 2 is leverage. Ethan stood up, pacing. "Who are you?" Several seconds passed. Unknown number. Someone who listened when they thought no one was recording. Outside, sirens echoed through the city. Helicopters thudded overhead. America argued loudly about authenticity, intent, and legality, completely missing the most important detail hiding in plain sight. The video wasn't aimed at voters. It wasn't aimed at the courts. And it wasn't aimed at the media. It was aimed at 3 specific people. And all 3 of them knew exactly what the offer was. As midnight approached, the anonymous account that first uploaded the clip posted one final message before going silent. Tomorrow, you'll understand why this had to happen. Ethan stared at the words, a chill running down his spine. He didn't know who was behind the recordings. He didn't know how many videos existed. And he didn't know how deep the story went. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was only the beginning. Part 2. Morning didn't bring clarity. It brought panic dressed up as confidence. By 6 a.m., every major network in the United States had assembled emergency panels. Former intelligence officials spoke in careful half-sentences. Political strategists argued about optics while avoiding substance. Lawyers repeated the same phrase over and over, context matters. No one mentioned the timestamp again. No one explained why the footage had been released now. Ethan Cole hadn't slept. He sat at his kitchen table, laptop open, coffee untouched, replaying the second video while scribbling notes across a legal pad. He wasn't looking at the man speaking anymore. He was studying everything around him. The hum beneath the audio. The slight echo that suggested an enclosed space. The reflection in the window that briefly revealed a passing highway sign. Interstate 395. That narrowed it down. At 7:14 a.m., Ethan's burner phone rang. Unknown number. He answered without speaking. They're already lying, the voice said. Male. Calm. Older than Ethan. And they'll keep lying until the third drop. You said part 2 was leverage, Ethan replied. This still feels like a warning. A faint chuckle came through the line. Warnings are for people with options. The call ended. Across the river in Arlington, a closed-door meeting convened inside a private law firm with no signage and no digital footprint. 3 men and 1 woman sat around a polished table, phones locked inside signal-blocking pouches. None of them trusted the others. All of them recognized the danger. One of them broke the silence. If this goes where I think it's going, we're not talking about scandal. We're talking about collapse. Another leaned back. Only if the recordings are complete. They always are, the woman said quietly. That's the point. Back in Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz finally spoke, but not publicly. He called a number he hadn't dialed in over 5 years. The line rang twice. I told you this would resurface, the voice on the other end said. Walz closed his eyes. You told me it was handled. It was, the voice replied. Until someone decided insurance wasn't enough. By mid-morning, a third clip leaked, not a video this time, but audio. Clean. High fidelity. Undeniable. A private meeting. Multiple voices. Names spoken out loud. And what about Walz? Someone asked. He'll fall in line, the former president replied. They always do. The effect was immediate. Stocks dipped. Foreign news outlets switched to continuous coverage. And the phrase, the offer, officially entered the American political lexicon. The White House press secretary stepped to the podium at noon, face tight, eyes scanning prepared remarks. The administration is aware of the circulating materials and cautions the public against misinformation. No conclusions should be drawn from selectively edited content. A reporter raised a hand. Is the White House denying the authenticity of the recordings? The press secretary paused for half a second too long. We are reviewing the matter. That pause told Ethan everything. He grabbed his jacket and headed out. By afternoon, Ethan was sitting across from a woman who hadn't spoken to a journalist in a decade. She met him in a quiet cafe in Georgetown, sunglasses still on, hands trembling slightly as she stirred her tea. I shouldn't be here, she said. You already are, Ethan replied gently. That means you want it out. She hesitated, then leaned forward. There were meetings. Not official ones. Not logged. Deals framed as favors. Promises that never touched paper. Who recorded them? Ethan asked. Her eyes flicked to the window. Someone who knew the system better than the people abusing it. As they spoke, social media erupted again. A fourth release. This time, documents. Flight logs. Encrypted emails. Calendar entries scrubbed from official servers. Individually, they meant nothing. Together, they formed a map. A pattern of late-night meetings. Unlisted phone calls. Policy decisions that followed within days. Ethan's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You see it now. Yes, Ethan typed back. But why me? Several seconds passed. Unknown number, because you still believe the truth matters even when it's expensive. By evening, one senator announced an early retirement. Another canceled all public appearances. A former cabinet member boarded a private jet bound for a country with no extradition treaty. And still, the source remained silent. Inside a secure facility in Virginia, intelligence analysts finally said the words out loud. This wasn't meant to destroy one man, one of them said. It's meant to reset the board. Late that night, Ethan received a final message for the day. Unknown number. Tomorrow, they'll try to discredit the messenger. After that, they'll try to silence you. Ethan stared at the screen, pulse racing. Then what? He typed. The reply came instantly. Unknown number. Then we show them the price of pretending they didn't hear the offer. Outside, Washington, D.C. glowed as usual. Tourists took photos. Traffic crawled. Restaurants filled with quiet conversations. But beneath the surface, alliances were fracturing, fear was spreading, and a question no one wanted to answer hung over the nation. What happens when the people who run the system realize someone finally recorded the truth? And somewhere, whoever held the remaining footage prepared to press upload again. Part 3. The smear campaign began exactly at 8 a.m., right on schedule. Anonymous sources suddenly flooded the airwaves, all repeating the same carefully crafted narrative. The recordings were selective. The journalist involved was politically motivated. The timing was convenient. No one challenged the authenticity anymore. That battle had already been lost. Now the goal was confusion. Ethan Cole watched it unfold. From his apartment, jaw clenched. He recognized the tactic instantly. You don't deny reality when the evidence is overwhelming. You drown it. You exhaust the audience. You make truth feel subjective. His inbox exploded. Editors asking for comment. Unknown accounts accusing him of coordination. A single message from his publisher that read only, "Be careful." Then came the leak about him. A grainy photo from a decade ago. A misquoted line from an old article. A former colleague suddenly willing to speak, on background, about Ethan's temperament. It was sloppy, rushed, and obvious, but it was enough. By noon, his name was trending. In Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz stood at a podium for the first time since the releases began. He spoke calmly, evenly, reading prepared remarks. I have never participated in any illegal negotiations, he said. Any suggestion otherwise is categorically false. A reporter shouted, "Did you receive an offer?" Walz paused. Political conversations happen all the time, he replied. That does not make them conspiracies. The pause was captured, clipped, reposted millions of times. Inside a private residence in Florida, the former president watched the coverage in silence. He wasn't angry. He wasn't worried. He smiled. Exactly as planned, he murmured. His aide shifted uncomfortably. Sir, if the remaining recordings surface. They will, he said. That's how you force commitment. Fear sharpens loyalty. Back in Washington, Ethan met with his editor in a nondescript office away from the newsroom. The blinds were drawn. Phones were off. They're going to burn you, the editor said. They already started. They can't, Ethan replied. Not if we keep moving. The editor leaned forward. Do you know who your source is? Ethan hesitated. No, but I know what they want. And that is completion, Ethan said. They don't want chaos. They want closure. That afternoon, the fifth release dropped, and it changed everything. This time, the video showed faces. Not just one. 3. A quiet room. A table. Drinks untouched. The former president spoke first. If this comes out, we all go down. Another voice responded, tense. And if we accept, you survive, he said. And when this is over, you'll thank me. The third voice was unmistakable. Governor Tim Walz. The room went silent across America. Cable news froze the frame. Commentators stopped speculating and started choosing sides. Legal experts stopped talking about hypotheticals and started talking about indictments. Walz's office released a statement within minutes calling the video a manipulated composite. But it was too late. Ethan's phone rang again. Unknown number. He answered. They'll offer you protection, the voice said. Access. Prestige. Safety. What if I refuse? Ethan asked. A pause. Then you become part of the story. As night fell, a senior intelligence official resigned. A PAC announced it was suspending all operations. Foreign governments issued carefully worded statements expressing concern. And somewhere inside a secure server, a final folder sat untouched. Labeled simply, Final. Ethan sat alone, staring at his screen. He understood now. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about power. It was about forcing the truth into daylight, no matter how many people tried to shut their eyes. His phone buzzed one last time that night. Unknown number. Part 4 exposes the enforcement. Ethan exhaled slowly. If that was true, then what came next wouldn't just ruin careers. It would test the very idea of accountability. And the people who thought they controlled the system were about to find out what happened when the system started recording them back. Part 4. The arrests didn't come. That was the first sign something was wrong. By dawn, legal analysts across the country had predicted warrants, subpoenas, at least public announcements. Instead, there was silence. No DOJ briefing. No federal statements. No movement. The footage had detonated politically, but institutionally, nothing happened. Ethan noticed it immediately. "They're freezing," he said out loud to an empty room. "They're buying time." At 9:32 a.m., a leaked memo confirmed it. Senior officials inside the Justice Department had ordered all related inquiries to be centralized, sealed, and reviewed for national security implications. The phrase was vague, intentionally so. By lunchtime, the narrative had shifted again. This wasn't corruption anymore. It was stability. It was continuity. It was the system protecting itself. Inside a fortified building in Northern Virginia, a classified task force convened. Intelligence, DOJ, Homeland Security, and political liaisons sat at the same table, none of them comfortable with the optics. One analyst finally said it. "If we move forward, we implicate ourselves." Another replied, "If we don't, the public will decide we're complicit." The room fell quiet. In Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz canceled all public appearances. His staff fielded calls from donors, party officials, and private attorneys. He sat alone in his office, staring at a wall that suddenly felt much closer than it used to. His phone rang. A secure line. "You were told this wouldn't go past insurance," Walz said immediately. The voice on the other end was calm. Familiar. "Insurance only works if everyone believes it exists." "What do you want?" Walz demanded. "Nothing anymore," the voice replied. The offer expired. Walz swallowed. Across the country, Ethan received a different call. "Unknown number." He answered. "They're scared of precedent," the voice said. "If accountability applies upward, the entire hierarchy collapses. So they'll bury it," Ethan replied. "They'll try," the voice said. "That's why Part 4 matters." Minutes later, the sixth release dropped. Bodycam footage. A routine traffic stop from years earlier. 2 officers. 1 unmarked vehicle. A passenger quietly identified as federal. The audio was clear. "Stand down," the voice said. "This vehicle is protected." Protected by who? The video cut to internal emails showing directives to local law enforcement. Cases dismissed. Investigations halted. Evidence lost. Enforcement had been compromised. The revelation hit harder than the political footage. This wasn't ideology. This was infrastructure. This was proof that power didn't just negotiate behind closed doors, it reached down into the mechanisms meant to stop it. Police unions demanded answers. Civil rights groups demanded action. And ordinary Americans began asking a question far more dangerous than outrage. If the law doesn't apply to them, who does it apply to? Inside the White House, a senior advisor slammed a folder shut. "We can't contain this." Another whispered, "Then we discredit enforcement failures as isolated." "But they're not," the first replied. "They're systemic." That night, protests began quietly. Not riots. Not chaos. People standing in silence, holding signs with a single word written in black letters. Accountability. Ethan watched from his window as the crowd grew. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. 1 piece left. Ethan typed back. The source. Several seconds passed. Unknown number. No. The choice. Ethan frowned. Whose? The reply came slowly. Everyone's. At midnight, the anonymous account posted again for the first time in days. Tomorrow, the system decides whether it corrects itself, or proves it never could. Ethan understood the implication. Part 5 wouldn't just expose wrongdoing, it would force a decision that no institution could dodge. And once that line was crossed, there would be no returning to how things used to work. Part 5. The system chose silence. That choice echoed louder than any confession ever could. By morning, official statements had hardened into a single unified message. Investigations were ongoing, processes were being respected, and premature conclusions were dangerous. It was coordination masquerading as caution. And the public felt it. Ethan woke to the sound of chanting outside his apartment. Not angry. Focused. Measured. "Say it out loud," the crowd repeated. "Say it out loud." Inside, Ethan scrolled through overnight developments. 3 prosecutors had quietly recused themselves. 2 judges postponed unrelated hearings citing security concerns. A major network abruptly canceled a scheduled special report without explanation. This wasn't fear anymore. This was alignment. His burner phone vibrated. Unknown number. They made their decision. Yes, Ethan typed back. To protect the structure. No, the reply came. To protect the illusion. At 10:47 a.m., the 7th release dropped. Not audio. Not video. A ledger. A complete financial map spanning decades. Shell companies. Nonprofits. Consulting firms. Money flowing sideways, looping back, disappearing, resurfacing as campaign funding, legal defense funds, private retainers. It wasn't illegal in isolation. That was the genius of it. It was legal corruption. The ledger didn't accuse. It demonstrated. Within minutes, economists, forensic accountants, and financial journalists confirmed it. The pattern was undeniable. Influence had been monetized, laundered, and normalized. This wasn't about one former president. It wasn't about one governor. It was about a machine that rewarded silence and punished disruption. In Minnesota, Tim Walz sat with his attorney as the ledger spread across screens worldwide. They can't prosecute this, the attorney said quietly. Not without prosecuting half the system. Walz laughed bitterly. So I walk. The attorney hesitated. Legally, maybe. Walz's smile faded. And publicly, the attorney didn't answer. By afternoon, a senior DOJ official resigned on camera, voice shaking as he spoke. I cannot continue to serve a process that mistakes delay for justice, he said. The evidence is real. The consequences are being avoided. That single resignation cracked the wall. Others followed. Not dozens. Just enough. Inside a secure location, the source watched the reaction unfold. He hadn't slept in days. He didn't need to. Momentum had taken over. He typed one final message to Ethan. Unknown number. This is where you choose. Ethan stared at the screen. Choose what? The response came slower than usual. Whether you tell them who I am, or why this was never about me. Ethan understood now. The source wasn't hiding out of fear. He was hiding to preserve the point. At sunset, the anonymous account posted again. This is not a coup. This is a mirror. Crowds grew larger. Still peaceful. Still silent. The word accountability now joined by another. Consent. Late that night, Ethan sat down to write the most important article of his career. Not an exposé. Not a leak. A synthesis. A narrative that connected every release into a single undeniable truth. The system had been offered a chance to correct itself quietly. It had refused. And that meant the final part wouldn't be about evidence. It would be about consequences chosen in public view. Ethan's phone buzzed one last time before midnight. Unknown number. Part 6 removes the shield. Ethan closed his laptop slowly. If that was true, then tomorrow wouldn't be about whether the system could survive the truth. It would be about whether it deserved to. Part 6. The shield was never legal. That was the realization that finally shattered the illusion. At 7:03 a.m., the final protective argument collapsed when a federal judge in New York issued a ruling no one expected. In a case unrelated on the surface, she wrote a single paragraph that detonated across the legal world. National security cannot be invoked to conceal evidence of domestic political coercion. The sentence spread faster than any video ever had. Within minutes, sealed motions were challenged. Protective orders were questioned. Reporters filed emergency requests. The system's favorite hiding place had been declared invalid. Ethan read the ruling 3 times, heart racing. They lost the shield, he whispered. Outside, the chants changed. No more delay. No more immunity. Inside the White House, advisors spoke in voices barely above whispers. Phones rang nonstop. Allies stopped returning calls. The cost-benefit equation had flipped. One senior official said it plainly. If we keep absorbing this, we become it. At 10:22 a.m., the source broke his silence. Not with evidence. With presence. A verified account posted a single sentence. I recorded the meetings. No anonymity. No explanation. Just a name. Daniel Mercer. Former federal compliance officer. 30 years inside the system. Assigned to oversight no one respected and everyone avoided. The reaction was immediate and violent, not physically, but institutionally. Old performance reviews surfaced. Think pieces questioned his motives. Commentators called him disgruntled. Then Mercer released one more thing. Authorization. A signed directive granting him oversight recording privileges during classified integrity audits. The room went quiet again. He hadn't broken the rules. He had followed the one everyone forgot existed. Ethan's phone rang. This time, it wasn't unknown. It was Mercer. I won't run, Mercer said. I won't negotiate. I won't testify in private. What do you want? Ethan asked. Mercer's voice was steady. A public reckoning. With conditions. Which are, no pardons. No sealed settlements. No quiet exits. By afternoon, subpoenas finally moved. Not many. Just enough. The former president's attorneys issued statements filled with procedural language. Walz's legal team requested time. Lots of it. Mercer went live that evening. No drama. No music. No filters. I was present, he said calmly. I recorded because the system asked me to ensure integrity. When I reported misconduct, I was told to forget it. So I documented it. He looked directly into the camera. This was not revenge. This was documentation. Millions watched. Some were angry. Some were relieved. Most were stunned. Mercer ended with a final sentence. The offer was real. The refusal to confront it was the crime. Ethan felt the weight of it settle. There was only one move left now. Not exposure. Not protest. Decision. Late that night, Ethan received one final message from Mercer. Tomorrow, they decide in the open. Ethan closed his eyes. Part 7 wouldn't be dramatic. It would be definitive. Because when the shield is gone, there are only two outcomes left. Reform, or confirmation that the system was never broken, only revealed. Part 7. The decision came at dawn. Not announced. Not celebrated. Simply made. At 6:41 a.m., the Attorney General stood before a single camera in a quiet briefing room and spoke words that would echo through history. A special public tribunal is being convened. No qualifiers. No delays. No deflections. For the first time, the statement continued, all evidence related to the recorded negotiations, enforcement, interference, and financial coordination will be examined in open session. America didn't cheer. It exhaled. The tribunal wasn't symbolic. That became clear within hours. Subpoenas were issued without warning. Travel restrictions were enacted quietly. Accounts were frozen pending review. The machine that had perfected hesitation finally moved, because it no longer had a place to hide. Tim Walz watched the announcement alone. He didn't call his attorney. He didn't call his staff. He simply sat down. Across the country, the former president's legal team prepared for battle, but the usual playbook failed them. There were no sealed rooms left. No procedural smoke. Every motion was streamed. Every objection logged in real time. The public watched the system confront itself. Daniel Mercer testified first. Not as a hero. Not as a victim. As a witness. He explained the oversight directive. The ignored reports. The moment he realized the system wasn't malfunctioning, it was operating as designed. I recorded because accountability had no memory, Mercer said. So I became its memory. The footage was played in full. Unedited. Uninterrupted. No commentary. No spin. Just truth, unfolding at its own pace. Then came the question that ended the illusion. Was the offer illegal? Mercer didn't hesitate. The offer was leverage, he said. The crime was the expectation of silence. By the third day, resignations replaced defenses. By the fifth, indictments followed, not sweeping, not theatrical, but precise. Targeted. Surgical. The system didn't collapse. It corrected. Some figures walked free, exposed, diminished, but uncharged. Others didn't. Power didn't decide the outcome anymore. Evidence did. Ethan Cole published his final piece on the seventh night. Not a victory lap. Not a manifesto. Just a closing sentence that spread faster than anything before it. The most dangerous lie we tell ourselves is that corruption looks dramatic. Most of the time, it looks organized. The anonymous account posted one last time. No more recordings exist. And for the first time, everyone believed it. Protests faded. Not because people stopped caring, but because something rare had happened. The truth had been acknowledged without being negotiated. Weeks later, Ethan received a handwritten note. No return address. Just 4 words written carefully in blue ink. You listened when it mattered. Ethan folded the note and placed it in a drawer. The story was over. Not because the system had been purified, but because it had been forced to remember. And America learned something it would never forget. The offer wasn't power. The offer was silence. And this time, it was refused.